One's ready. One's ready. Go!
Back to the One's Ready podcast. You're in the team room, and this is your daily drop for the 10th of July. If you guys weren't tracking, we just dropped it and announced it yesterday. We are holding the next operator training course in Nashville on the 25th and 26th of October. So come join us. You can email me at jared@onesready.com. You can send us a DM on Instagram. You can shoot us a comment on YouTube, and we will get all the info out there. We're going to do things a little bit different in terms of the sign up and securing your spot this time, just to try and really alleviate some chaff and some people that were trying to game the system, if you will. So we're learning, right? But we'd love to see you guys out there. It's a great event in San Diego, great event in Orlando before that. And then obviously we did Vegas back in February. So this is the next one. Arrive 24 October, land-based stuff on the 25th, all day of pool work on the 26th, Nashville, Tennessee. See you out there. All right. This is your joint news. U.S.-South Korea military leaders meeting. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General David Kane met with South Korean JCS Chairman Admiral Kim Myong-soo to discuss their alliance ahead of a trilateral meeting with Japanese General Yoshida. Kane plans to assess United States military's presence in South Korea and Japan and recommend adjustments to troop levels. The last such trilateral meeting occurred in 2024, so not that long ago. Our next, resumption of weapons shipments to Ukraine. The Trump administration resumed weapons shipments to Ukraine after a brief DoD pause for review to align with its defense strategy. A White House official clarified that shipments were never fully halted. Pentagon officials emphasized that decisions on weapon systems rest with the president and secretary, which is a true statement for sure. Regardless of however you feel about whether we should be shipping things over to Ukraine or not, or providing the money or not, it is ultimately POTUS and the Secretary of Defense decision to do so. Next, Pentagon trials drone spotting system. The Air Force Research Laboratory, or AFRL, is testing the collaborative low-altitude uncrewed aircraft system integration effort, CLUE, C-L-U-E. For potential installation at military bases worldwide, CLUE integrates systems for security, air traffic control, and uncrewed aircraft systems operators. A new FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration, regulation under development will enable beyond line-of-sight drone flights with fewer restrictions. Good gosh. The brains over at Air Force Research Laboratory, I've worked with them for at least the last 15 years on a variety of different projects, and they got some wicked smart people over there. So if you are, I get that this is an Air Force Special Warfare focused podcast, but if you are into engineering or a rocket scientist or just developing new tech and inventing new things, like the Air Force has a solution for you, and it's the Air Force Research Laboratory. Veterans delay in base medical care. Veterans seeking health care at military bases face delays at entry points, issues with medical records, and reimbursement slowdowns per a Government Accountability Office report. The report examined sharing agreements between DoD and Department of Veteran Affairs. While agreements improve access to many cases, incompatibilities in records and billing practices hinder others. I'm guessing here because I'm new to the VA, Veterans Affairs, right? Like I haven't really used it yet. I'd like to think that they have the same exact system, which would be MHS Genesis. Not that MHS Genesis is good, but just that they would have the same system. But now, based off of this, and the Government Accountability Report Office report, I'm wondering if they don't use the same system. I guess I'll find out here pretty soon, right? All right. DITRA briefing on Iran nuclear facilities. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DITRA, hosted a press briefing on the bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities. Officials discussed the operation's impacts and ongoing assessment. This follows recent U.S. strikes amid heightened tensions. I still have not seen the final report in terms of the battle damage assessment that has been done. I've seen mixed reports saying, hey, it was extremely successful. Obviously, the administration is putting that out. But then I've also seen people on the other side of it that automatically go in there with a whole lot of skepticism, say that we only set their program back by 1 to 2 years, which, is it good that we set their program back? Sure. That was a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of money put forth to only set their program back by 1 to 2 years, So I don't know. I don't know what the truth is in that matter. Secretary of Defense Hegseth welcomes Netanyahu. DOD Secretary of Defense and senior officials welcomed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the Pentagon. Discussions focused on bilateral security cooperation and regional stability. The meeting underscored continued U.S. support for Israel's defense needs. Next, DoD ManTech program expansion. The DoD Manufacturing Technology, or ManTech program, is growing the U.S. military industrial base through investments in advanced manufacturing. It supports innovation in areas like hypersonics and microelectronics. Officials highlighted its role in enhancing supply chain resilience. Yes, you destroy our supply chain, or not just ours, anybody's supply chain, and it is going to affect their operations. Now, it may not affect it immediately. Well, depending on what you hit or what you disrupt, it can for sure disrupt operations immediately, but it can also be a long-term game. And logistics wins wars. Air Force news. Department level exercise launch. The Department of the Air Force, or DAF, launched its first department level exercise since the Cold War, involving over 12,000 airmen and guardians and 350 aircraft. Air Force Secretary Dr. Troy Mink emphasized its role in integrating capabilities with allies in realistic environments. The department level exercise, or DLE, encompasses Resolute Force Pacific. Must be the name of the exercise. Encompasses Resolute Force Pacific, Resolute Space, Mobility Guardian, Emerald Warrior, and Bamboo Eagle 25-3. Very familiar with Emerald Warrior and Bamboo Eagle. Actually, I think the Mobility Guardian too, I'm familiar with. The other two, though, I have not heard of. Next, Japan joins Resolute Force Pacific. Japan's Air Self-Defense Force is participating in the U.S.-led Resolute Force Pacific, which is REFOR-PAC. Okay, I am familiar with it. I've just never seen it spelled out like that. I'm used to seeing the acronyms. So REFOR-PAC, exercise to test adaptability in challenging environments. Japanese Defense Minister General Nakatani stated it will strengthen joint response capabilities and Indo-Pacific stability. U.S. and Japanese bases will host each other's fighters, including F-35s, F-16s, and KC-135s. Sounds like a good time to me. T-7A Red Hawk climate test completion. The T-7A Red Hawk jet trainer completed extreme weather testing at Eglin Air Force Base, including cockpit icing and crosswinds. Boeing officials noted the efficient testing approach will expedite delivery. The T-7A aims to replace the aging T-38 Talon, addressing pilot training shortages. Okay, I got a question. Other than severe thunderstorms and lightning and that kind of stuff, how is Eglin Air Force Base, which is in the panhandle of Florida, considered extreme weather testing? Unless they put it in a climate-controlled facility and took it down to freezing and stuff like that. Like, I mean, maybe they did, and maybe that's a capability, and I know we do have those things, so maybe that's exactly what that is, but I would think putting it in, Minot Air Force Base to give it a shot might help with some of that extreme cold weather stuff. Oh, and Minot Air Force Base is in North Dakota, so gets cold. Next, B-52 simulator modernization efforts. The Air Force seeks funding to update B-52 simulators, which lag behind aircraft upgrades. Officials said current simulators fail to prepare crews for key scenarios due to mismatched flight dynamics. New simulators will be needed for the upcoming B-52J variant with enhanced pylons, radars, and navigation. This is not unique to the B-52s. They are severely behind, as well as every other system. Even our F-35 simulators aren't what they need to be. So is it positive training? Sure, because they are able to take care of some of the things they do, but is it also negative training and creating scar tissue? It absolutely is. And here's the other kicker is you can have two F-35 or two F-15 simulators right next to each other, right? And two different pilots in there in the same scenario, and they can't talk to each other. I mean, the pilots can talk to each other, but the systems themselves don't touch each other. If you like, it is, and I know that sounds like ridiculous, but I might have to get one of the pilots to come on and actually discuss and talk about this because it's insanity how broken the simulator system is and how political bullshit it is. All right, next. The DAFI, or the Department of the Air Force Instruction 362903, has updates. The Air Force updated and clarified Department of the Air Force Instruction 362903 on dress and appearance standards for airmen. Changes address uniform wear, grooming, and accessories. Support or separate guidance for guardians is forthcoming. Okay, I have not checked out the new 362903 because frankly, it doesn't really apply to me anymore, but I am interested to see what those changes are. And I bet if you went over to Facebook and you went over to the Airman NCO, Senior NCO Facebook page, I bet that people are losing their freaking minds over there because we got a whole bunch of baby back bitches all over that page. All right, next. F-16 realignment from Japan to South Korea. The Air Force is shifting enhanced F-16 fighters from Misawa Air Base in Japan to Osan Air Base in South Korea as part of the force posture adjustments. This realignment aims to optimize regional deterrence. It follows assessments of the U.S. presence in Indo-Pacific. Next, B-1B Lancer External Pylons Addition. The Air Force is advancing plans to equip the B-1 bombers with new external pylons for testing, or after testing, rather. This upgrade increases munition capacity for long-range strikes. It supports modernization and evolving threats. So are we keeping the B-1s or are we shit-canning them? Like, what is it? You know, because I sure would like to see upgrades on the A-10, and let's keep the A-10 as well. I also would like to see us keep the B-1 because it's an extremely capable platform. So you guys know we're still spending money on upgrading the B-1. So are we going to keep it or not? At the same time, what the hell do I know? Maybe adding pylons on there is $5 extra. Obviously it's not, but maybe it's chump change, but either way, we're still spending money on it when it probably could use other upgrades as well. Enlistment bonus budget increase. The Air Force and Space Force plan to triple enlistment bonuses in fiscal year 2026 for hard-to-fill jobs targeting over 25,000 airmen. This addresses recruiting challenges in critical fields. The initiative extends recent recruitment successes. All right, this is Space Force news. Opposition to TRACSS funding, that is TRACSS, which stands for Space Operations Command, SPOC, or no, I'm sorry, that's a different acronym. Space Operations Command, SPOC. Officials advocate for the Commerce Department to assume civilian space traffic management via the Traffic Coordination System for Space, TRACSS. Cutting TRACSS funding would force the Space Force to retain these duties, diverting from national security missions. This is critical amid contested space domains. Have you guys ever seen that picture of what Earth looks like with all the satellites and junk surrounding it? It's pretty wild to see. And it seems like that at any point at nighttime, as long as you don't have all the night pollution, you can look up and see multiple satellites flying around. So that is a for sure, especially as we put people up in space on either rockets or in the space station. Like all it takes is, a small bolt flying at or orbiting at 17,000 miles an hour or whatever it is to go through the hull of that and just kill that entire team. So it's pretty important, I'd say. Let's see. International Partnership Strategy publication. The Space Force published its International Partnership Strategy to foster partnerships for space security and stability. Chief of Space Operations General Chance Saltzman stressed collaboration's necessity in a complex domain. It aims to enhance deterrence capabilities with allies. Next, DoD missing reimbursement for launches. A Government Accountability Office audit found the DoD may be forfeiting millions in reimbursements from commercial satellite launch companies at federal sites. Launch tempo has surged 400% since 2021 at places like Cape Canaveral. Recommendations include updating billing processes with the Office of Undersecretary of Defense Comptroller. Yeah, missing out on cash. Cold hard cash. Next, public comments on Starship launches. The Air Force is gathering public input for the environmental impact statement on SpaceX Starship launches from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Concerns include launch reliability and environmental effects on wildlife. Hearings are ongoing with commitments to minimize impacts. Next, Resolute Space 25 exercise preparation. Over 700 Guardians worldwide are set to participate in the Resolute Space 2025, the Space Force's largest exercise. It focuses on space domain awareness and warfighting readiness. This integrates with broader Department of the Air Force efforts in the Pacific. It absolutely should. They need to complement each other, especially when we talk about those other exercises that are, RIM 4 pack and that kind of stuff that are taking place in the Pacific. Integrate all that stuff, peeps. All right. PFAS cleanup at Peterson Air Force Base, or Peterson Space Force Base, sorry. Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado is testing methods to deconstruct per and oh my God. Whatever the PFAS stands for, which is polyfluorocholinite substances. Dude, I cannot say that. Known as forever chemicals. This serves as a proving ground for contamination remediation efforts aimed to restore groundwater and soil. Yeah, absolutely. We shouldn't we got to take care of what we got, right? Not at the detriment of people's livelihoods and the advancement of space and underwater exploration and stuff like that. But maybe we should not put forever chemicals in things, and kill people. Space Force unfunded priorities list. U.S. Space Command submitted a $2.5 billion unfunded priorities list for fiscal year 26 to Congress. It covers enhancements in space domain awareness and command systems. This reflects gaps in current budgeting. FY26 extra funding requests. The Space Force seeks nearly $6 billion in additional fiscal year funding in 2026. Funding for priorities like satellite constellations. This is part of a combined $16 billion with a B, request for the Air Force. Focus areas include munitions and resilience. Jeez. All right, these are of interest. House NDAA on Trump's Golden Dome. The House National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, draft requires details on the President Trump's Golden Dome Missile Defense Initiative. It seeks transparency on costs, timelines, and effectiveness. This follows debates on strategic defense priorities. Next, U.S. satellites near Chinese assets. U.S. Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, GSAP, satellites reported positioned near Chinese satellites for observation. Retired officials noted current slow approaches allow evasion. Dynamic operations could expand capabilities. Huh. All right. Cool. Air Force mission in Iran implications. Operation Midnight Hammer against Iran succeeded, but highlights challenges in achieving air superiority against near peers. Well, I mean, Iran's not a near peer, so like, what are we talking about? Those folks got in there easy. Yeah, it was 120 aircraft, lots of mission planning and stuff like that, but that's what we do. So Iran is not a near peer. Larger campaigns may require multiple strike packages and risk mass casualties. The Air Force must prepare for contested environments. 100% agree, and we shouldn't scoff at, just like we didn't scoff at Iran, even though they were not a challenge for us. Will actual near peer adversaries be difficult, and there will be significant losses and require multiple strike packages, and there will be a ton of casualties? Absolutely. But we got to get right with that, or stop running our mouth and drawing lines. Ayyadid Base is liability. Ayyadid Air Base in Qatar is vulnerable to Iranian missiles and aligns with a host supporting terrorism. Alternatives like bases in Israel offer better protection and regional integration. Relocation could enhance U.S. force safety. I don't see us ever leaving Ayyadid, ever, because we have dumped so much money there, and it's a strategic location for us to take off to the Middle East, because Middle East seems to be the place that keeps pulling us back in. Every time we think we're out, we keep getting pulled right back in. Next, Government Accountability Office on Space Cooperation Challenges. A Government Accountability Office report urges DoD to address obstacles in space cooperation with allies, including system integration and data sharing. Efforts are ramping up, but require better strategies. This is key for joint operations in contested domains. Last two. Air Force Academy job cuts. The Air Force Academy is cutting 140 civilian positions due to budget constraints. This affects support staff and programs. Officials cited overhiring and the need for fiscal efficiency. We've talked about that before. You don't need to hear me bang on about it. And then nuclear microreactor for Alaska base. Eielson Air Force Base in Alaska will receive a nuclear microreactor for reliable energy. This enhances operational resilience in remote areas. It supports DoD's push for sustainable power sources. 100% agree. You guys have heard me talk about that one too. Super excited about that. Can't wait for that to come. And then, I want to get a micro nuclear reactor or a modular nuclear reactor for my house. Like every house should have it, or every neighborhood should have it, because they're phenomenal and it's clean energy. All right, we're out here. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and then visit us on whenready.com. Again, we have the Operator Training Summit available in Nashville. It's on our site, but then you can also shoot us messages to secure your spot. All right, see you.